welcome to another episode of the Bible Toolbox. I'm Lydia.
And I'm Luke, and we're here to help you enjoy the Bible through the tools that scholars and programmers have created for you. And so now,
What?
we're going to talk about 3 books that every Christian must read.
That's a strong statement,
Yes.
according to Luke Kieser.
According to me. Well, but it's not baseless. So let me give you 3 books every Christian must read. Okay. I'm going to convince you by the end of this. All right. So in the Christian tradition, there are 5 main branches. Okay. There's the Oriental Orthodox, Church of the East, Eastern Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestant churches, or like branches.
These are all of Christianity.
Yes.
Okay.
And within each of these, there's all sorts of splinterings and stuff, right? So this is very broad, right? Around 500-ish, the Oriental Orthodox, Church of the East, split with what I'm going to call the Orthodox Church. And then around 1,000-ish, the Eastern Orthodox and Catholic split. And around 1,500-ish, the Protestant and Catholic split. Okay. So that's 500, 1,000, 1,500. Okay? Easy.
It's like they meant it.
Okay. So these three books are books that were from, I'm going to group Oriental Orthodox, Church of the East, and Eastern Orthodox together.
Okay.
They're the most similar, I would say, out of these. Okay. So I picked one from each of those traditions, Eastern Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestant, that deeply impacted the church afterwards. Okay. So you as a Christian, a 21st century Christian, are deeply impacted by these books, and you don't even know it, maybe. Okay. Like, the church has never been the same since these books have been written.
But if I'm a Protestant, why would I want to read an Eastern Orthodox book?
Well, because the Eastern Orthodox didn't split off until 1,000. So.
But we split from them. Why would I want to read a Catholic book if I'm Protestant?
Because it's part of the broader Christian tradition. And 2 of my books are going to be way back. So they're part of everyone's tradition. Okay. So
it was before the split.
More the question you should be asking is why. Yeah. It's way before the splits is what 2 of the books that I'm going to do. But one of them is Protestant. And so you should be asking, why would a Catholic want to read a Protestant?
Because it was after.
Yeah. But Catholics do read this Protestant, and that's why you should care about him. Is right. That's kind of the point. Each 3 of these have they haven't just impacted their one tradition. They've impacted the whole tradition. Okay. That's how good they are.
So, like, me knowing you, I know that you read like all the people, whether they agree with you or not, whether you agree with them, like whether they're Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, whatever. Like, why? If I'm a Catholic or if I'm a Protestant, why do I care what Catholics are saying?
Because they might be right. Well, I mean, that's why I started. I just admitted the whole existential angst of how do I know what I'm reading is even true? Right. And so part of this is if you read outside of it helps you get out of your bubble. Right. And sometimes you get stuck in a rut and you just read the Bible in the same way over and over and over and over. And then you read a completely different perspective and you're like, whoa.
Never thought about it. Never thought about
it. Yeah. And then whether it's right or wrong, now you have you have more in your arsenal to use and to think about.
Sure.
Okay. And so what I found is reading we're going to talk about a core person from each of these traditions that if you read them carefully and closely and whatever, you're going to see a ton of overlap between all 3 of these. And you get a better sense of what is core and central
Oh, sure.
to Christianity.
Christianity. Like, what can we all agree on?
Yeah.
We disagree on certain things, but we are all using the Bible. We are all worshiping God and Jesus and the Spirit.
Yeah.
Like, what can we agree on that will
Mhm.
bind us together?
Yeah. And this isn't saying like, we need to accept everything and,
Sure.
have like this fake unity that we all agree deep
Mhm.
down. And it's like, no, we have really substantial disagreements.
Yeah.
But reading these 3 books will help you get where the other side's coming from, but you'll also like get yourself more, because like these have so formed your own like Christian walk and you don't even know it.
Mhm.
But like they'll help you understand yourself better.
All
Okay?
right. So, what are these
These 3 books. Okay. All right. The first one is On the Incarnation by Saint Athanasius.
Okay.
So
Sounds like a very old name.
very old. So he is right after the Council of Nicaea, which was in the early 300s.
So very early.
Very, very early. Okay. And so the Council of Nicaea, from like the early 300s to the late 300s, Nicaea is the council that talked about the Trinity, right? And
Okay.
kind of like established Trinity is Orthodox doctrine. Like this is true.
Like we believe in Christianity believes in
Yeah.
the Trinity.
Like, of course, it's in the New Testament, and of course, Christians have been talking about the Trinity, since then. But it was
Mhm.
kind of like the nail is in the coffin, right? It's like we're calling it here. I shouldn't actually say that, because then there were tons of debates right after that, and it took a second council to kind of further nail things down. But Athanasius was kind of in that in-between time between the first council and the second council of like fighting the heresies that arose since then.
So he was really fighting for the Trinity.
Yes. So how we understand the doctrine of the Trinity is largely shaped by Athanasius.
Okay.
Okay. And what he, especially on this little book here, On the Incarnation,
It's little.
it's little. I want to say like 100 pages
Okay.
or something. Pretty short. What he just really tries to show is that what you say about the Trinity affects what you think about salvation. It's like this isn't just an obscure, abstract thing, but like if Jesus isn't fully God, then your salvation doesn't bring you fully to God.
Hmm.
Right? Then like God didn't fight for your salvation with all that he had. He just sent another messenger, another prophet. Like, no. When God determines to save the world, he's going to do it with himself. Right? And so that's kind of like the heart of the argument behind that. But like, and that's carried the day. I mean, that's what we believe in Christianity. That's like why we are so certain of our salvation and worship and love Jesus, right? Yeah. And Athanasius just helped like put language and words and really like settle the doctrine there.
And is it easy to understand?
Yeah. This is, I would say it's the second easiest on my list.
Okay.
Of 3.
We'll talk later about how to understand it better, but so this book helps us with seeing the Trinity, and that solidifies our salvation. And just illuminates.
He goes through the history of the whole Bible. He does like a sweep overview of the whole Bible and shows like how it teaches us about Jesus and God, like why we needed Jesus. Okay. So it helps you like get a big picture of what the Bible is about. Okay.
So the mere fact that he was so early is one reason that we should be reading him.
Yeah.
But also because he's impacted all of Trinitarian theology since.
Yes. Okay. And so I've thrown a couple other books. These are extras. I'm throwing these in for free.
Okay.
And
you're so kind.
Okay. And so of course, On the Incarnation, that's my read that one. But Athanasius also wrote a ton of other things. And so one of them, and so in each of these, I kind of, here's my cheat, is I threw in kind of a more doctrinal book and a like life practical spirituality book. Okay. And so not only did On the Incarnation is a very like doctrinal book, and then the second one, Defense Against the Arians, is like On the Incarnation times like 10. He goes like verse by verse and just explains the text. And so like
the Arians were heretics.
They're the heretics that he's fighting against,
Mhm.
right? But like in that work, he does careful like reading the Bible and showing like how this points us to Christ. Okay. And so like it's kind of the footnotes of the On the Incarnation. If you want more info,
go read Against the Arians.
Yeah. Okay. And then he also wrote this biography called Life of Anthony, of one of the first monks. Okay. So like Athanasius is also one of the huge influencers of like why monasticism became so big throughout the early church and medieval church, and even today there are many monks still today. Mm-hmm. And Athanasius was a big part of like promoting that. And so I'm not a monk, but like it will make you think about your spiritual life and
priorities.
Yeah. I mean, Anthony ran to the desert and gave up his life, sold all that he had, like go sell all of your possessions to the poor. He took it literally and did it. And it talks about how he like fights against temptation and demons and so on. So anyway, there we go. But
if you're going to read anything,
to keep it to the 3 books, On the Incarnation is the first one. All right. So that's Athanasius.
Okay. What is our next book?
Next one, Augustine's Confessions. Okay. And so this is an autobiography.
So he wrote it about himself.
And it goes through his upbringing, and he became a teacher of rhetoric, but like a philosopher, brilliant philosopher, but not of Christianity. Okay. And so his mom was Christian, but his dad wasn't. And so it tells his story of how he was a Manichae. It's just the philosophy.
Oh,
okay. Not Christian.
Okay.
It's actually kind of Hindu-ish.
Okay.
If you want to reference.
Augustine was okay.
Okay.
You just assume he's always Christian.
Yeah. No.
He's so influential.
It took him a long time. And so he was deep into the Manichae religion.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually he talks about it, his development of how like those ideas, well, he actually talks about his childhood a little bit too, of how he came to understand himself as a sinner and why he started like seeking deeper things, which led him to Manichaeanism. And then eventually he turned to Neoplatonism. Don't worry about what these mean exactly, but eventually like all of that just like slowly working through until he finally came to Christ. And so you just get to see this like real honest and like raw journey. Like it's confessions, both like confessing the goodness of God, but also like confessing his own sin and like the ways he really messed up. And so you get to see how like a deep Christian thinker like looks at his life. This is written near the end of his life and he's looking back. And you just get to see his faith journey, and it's really beautiful. He's one of the, if not the smartest Christian like in history. So it's very hard. It can be hard to read at times. But very powerfully spiritual. Deep sense of like how he prays and things. Actually, the whole thing is a prayer to God. The entire book is a prayer to God. Reflecting his life back to God in prayer. So it's amazing.
So does it like make you reflect then on the questions he's asking too, or like why? Like, I get it's a cool book, but like why must every Christian read it?
Well, it's the same. Like, why do you want to listen to people tell their testimonies and like their walks? It's.
So you think this is a testimony that everybody should hear?
Yeah. and by maybe the greatest Christian mind. And so just to, he's often known as like a theologian of the heart. And so just the language he used, he was a teacher of rhetoric. So like even just the way he writes is very poetic and moving. I don't know, makes my mind just like soar up to God.
So you're also a very rhetorical person. And I started listening to this and it was just like, what am I listening to? And so maybe I just need to try again.
Yes. And maybe you need an easier translation.
Maybe I need an easier translation.
And maybe you need to read it and not listen to it.
Maybe that would help.
I might. So this is the book. This is a very spirituality type of book. It also has quite a bit of theology in it. But then he's also written tons and tons of other things. And so he wrote on the Trinity, which basically the Catholic and Protestant churches have. He molded the shape of how Christians talk about the Trinity.
Even more than Athanasius?
He's after Athanasius. So he's like in the 400s. Athanasius is in the 300s. They're similar time, but he's a little bit after. And so he developed it in a way that the West has kind of latched onto.
Okay. Catholic
and Protestant.
Okay.
And then the City of God is massive, but it's kind of like his tome, his main work on. Like people say, like he answered everything that came before him in that book.
So if you want to really be rambunctious and go read City of God.
Yes.
Ambitious.
But start with the Confessions.
If you can get through that, then City of God.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So Athanasius and Aquinas.
Yep. So Athanasius is my Eastern Orthodox representative or Eastern representative. Augustine is my Catholic or Western. That's kind of, it's anachronistic.
So before.
Yeah, they're both of these guys. They're so before.
Split.
But if you read them, you would get like, oh, this sounds Catholic. Like it's going to sound Catholic-ish.
So they claim
So yeah. I probably just dipped my feet into, people would fight about that. But anyway. All right. And the last one is C.S. Lewis for the Protestant. And so Mere Christianity is his account of what does it mean to be Christian? Just give me a mere Christian account, right? Strip it all down. Not even strip it all down, but like, what is the heart? What's the heart of Christianity? So yeah, what's cool with this one is he starts with kind of like philosophical-ish arguments, like arguing why we believe God exists. Why should we even believe in the Christian God? And he gives the famous moral argument. Well, we couldn't have morals unless there's a lawgiver. Can't have laws without a lawgiver. And then the second part moves into kind of like Christian doctrine. He gives an overview of Christian doctrine. And then the third part talks about Christian life. He gives just like really practical advice. And he's written the Chronicles of Narnia, and like
probably best known.
Yeah. And so he's just a very clear writer and he uses really like good word pictures and examples.
I would agree with that. I've read Mere Christianity, and the analogies and metaphors he uses are really helpful.
Yeah.
Like they really help you understand. It's like you're reading something and you're like, all right, not quite getting it. And then he like compares it to a piano or something. It's like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. So it's a good book that just gives you an overview of like, what is this whole thing? What's the big deal?
Yeah. And it's probably a book that you could keep rereading. And just like reading it once probably isn't going to make you like an apologist, or like you'll be able to defend what Christianity is, because there's so many multifaceted and so many things to think about, but it's a good book to keep going back to.
Yeah. Well, and he was like a medievalist, a historian. So like very deep in the tradition. And it's funny, like the more you read church history, the more you realize like none of Mere Christianity is his own. He's copying Augustine and Athanasius.
Yeah.
he wrote an introduction to Athanasius's On the Incarnation. That's also super good. And most published copies of On the Incarnation include his preface.
Even though he's like from the 1900s.
But it was so good that like even like up here, this is with an Eastern Orthodox press, but they include with a preface by C.S. Lewis, right? And that's how good C.S. Lewis is that like even the Eastern Orthodox guys can't leave him out, right? It's too good.
Because he's Protestant.
He is Protestant. Yeah, he was an Anglican. And yeah, anyway, great book, Giving the Heart of Christianity. And then he also has written a wide amount of things like the Chronicles of Narnia and other fictional books is what he's probably most famous for. But he's also written a lot of essays that are very academic and philosophical and so on. But for spirituality, he wrote a autobiography called Surprised by Joy, which was recently made into a movie. The Most Reluctant Convert or something like that. But yeah, it goes through it's pretty similar to Augustine, going through kind of the way that he wrestled through his intellectual struggles and then eventually
he wasn't a Christian either.
Right. Yes. He was an atheist. And then he developed over time into it. So 3 books every Christian must read.
How would you put these in a hierarchy?
Oh, that's not fair. I got it down to 3.
Well, let them choose.
Yeah. But like C.S. Lewis is probably the most accessible, right? Because he's closest to our time period. And so he's using language and categories that we're probably most familiar with. On the Incarnation is probably the second easiest and shorter. And it's about kind of like what's the heart.
It's more targeted towards one topic.
Like who is Jesus and why did he come? And it's pretty easy to understand.
Probably have to read it carefully, but.
And then Confessions is hard and it's pretty long, but all 3 of these, it's kind of like the Bible, right? You read the Bible and it's hard to understand. And it's like, well, I'm just not going to try. Like, no, we like work to understand the Bible because we know it'll like pay off in the end.
Yes.
Okay. And so these 3 books, they will be worth the work. If you put in the work to understand them, there will be reward. I can guarantee you, right? And I'm not saying that just personally, but like the whole Christian tradition has felt the reward of their work. So it's like I'm trying to speak in a very broad sense, like speak for the tradition. Like these are voices that you should hear that will help you read the Bible better, right? Theology, these concepts, good spiritual living can help us read the Bible and enjoy it more.
Sure.
So
are there resources on how to understand them if we get stuck?
So we put several links here. These are reading guides or introductions to each of these books that can maybe help you as you go into them. So we will make these available on our website.
Awesome. That's good. Other people have helped us understand so we can understand as well.
Yes.
Awesome. That's great. We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Bible Toolbox. All of the resources mentioned in this episode are posted on our website, thebibletoolbox.com. There you can also find out more information on how to give and support us. And we have loved all of the encouragement and feedback we've received from you. So thanks so much.